Ambassador William Harris adjusted his tie one last time before entering the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. His steps echoed across the polished floor as representatives from over 200 alien species watched him with curious eyes. Some whispered to each other. Others remained silent. All wondered why the human had requested this emergency session. William was 62 years old with gray hair and wrinkles around his eyes. Those eyes had seen much during his 30 years as a diplomat. Today, they showed no fear, despite the weight of what he was about to do. The chamber was huge. The ceiling arched high above, showing the stars and 3 moons of Galactus Prime, the neutral planet where the council met. Blue lights from hovering drones cast soft glows on the alien. Representatives seated in rising circular rows. "The human ambassador from Earth will now address the council," announced the moderator, a tall being with 6 arms and skin that shifted colors as it spoke. William stepped onto the central platform. He placed his tablet on the podium and looked up at the gathered faces. So many species, so many worlds. Some were friends, many were neutral, and some, like the Krell Imperium, were enemies of everything humanity stood for. "Distinguished representatives," William began, his voice strong and clear. "For 28 years, humanity has been part of this galactic community. We have traded with you, learned from you, and shared what little we could offer as a young spacefaring species." He paused and looked directly at the section where the Krell delegation sat. General Vextor, the lead Krell representative, stared back with 4 black eyes that showed no emotion. The general's gray-scaled skin and sharp teeth were visible, even from a distance. During this time, William continued, "We have also watched. We have observed as the Krell Imperium violated treaty after treaty. We have documented the destruction of 16 worlds. We have counted the billions of lives lost." Murmurs spread across the chamber. The Krell delegates shifted in their seats. This was not the usual diplomatic talk they expected from humans. "Humanity has been seen as a minor power," William said. "We control only 18 star systems. Our ships are considered basic. Our weapons are viewed as primitive. The Krell have called us barely evolved primates in this very chamber." William smiled slightly. "The Krell, and perhaps many of you, have made a serious error in judgment." General Vextor stood up suddenly. "Is there a point to this speech, human? The council has real matters to discuss, not listen to complaints from a species that barely matters in galactic affairs." The moderator's skin flashed red. "The human ambassador has the floor, General. You will respect the protocols." William nodded his thanks. "I have come here today not to complain but to make an announcement." He took a deep breath. "As of this moment, by unanimous vote of Earth's United Nations and our colony worlds, humanity is officially entering the war against the Krell Imperium." The chamber erupted. Some representatives jumped to their feet. Others shouted questions. The Krell delegation hissed loudly, showing their sharp teeth. William raised his hand for quiet. Surprisingly, the noise died down. Everyone wanted to hear what this seemingly suicidal human would say next. "Many of you believe this is a death sentence for my species," William said calmly. "The Krell control over 1,000 star systems. Their military power is feared across 3 galactic arms. Why would tiny humanity challenge such a force?" He pressed a button on his tablet. A small device on the podium lit up with a soft green glow. It created a slight shimmer in the air, barely noticeable. "Because we are not what we have pretended to be," William said. On the massive screens around the chamber, images appeared. They showed human ships, but not the simple vessels the galaxy had seen before. These were massive warships, sleek and dark against the stars. Their designs were unlike anything in known space. For 28 years, humanity has hidden its true technological level, William explained as gasps echoed around him. "We learned early in our development that in this galaxy, showing power too quickly attracts unwanted attention. So we waited, we watched, we prepared. The screens changed to show weapons being tested, energy beams that cut through materials the Krell used as armor, force fields that repelled attacks that would destroy normal defenses. While trading with you for basic materials, we built this," William said, gesturing to the screens. A fleet that has remained hidden in dimensional pockets around our systems. Technology that we developed in secret. General Vextor was no longer trying to appear calm. This is a trick. Primitive humans cannot have such technology. This council should not listen to these lies. William looked directly at the Krell general. As we speak, human forces are emerging at 23 Krell military bases. The first strikes have already begun. He tapped his tablet again. Now, the screen showed real-time footage of human ships appearing near Krell stations. Energy weapons fired. Explosions bloomed in silent bursts across space. We didn't want war, William said quietly. We offered peace 7 times in the past 5 years. The Krell refused each time. They continued their expansion. They continued killing innocent species. Now they will learn that humanity is not prey. The Sixie council chamber had fallen completely silent. Even the Krell representatives watched the screens in shock. To our friends in the galaxy, we offer alliance, William continued. To neutral powers, we ask only that you stay neutral. To the Krell, he paused, looking directly at General Vextor. We are coming. William picked up his tablet from the podium. As he did, he placed a small data chip in its place. This contains evidence of all Krell war crimes we have documented. It also details our military capabilities and our strategic objectives. The Council may review it at its convenience. He stepped down from the platform and walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop him, no one spoke. Back on Earth, in the underground command center below Washington, D.C., Defense Secretary Patricia Coleman watched the broadcast with President Gregory Nelson and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Kevin Wright. It's done, Patricia said, her voice tight with tension. After all these years of preparing, it's finally done. President Nelson nodded slowly. His face showed the strain of the decision they had made. Send the order. All fleets engage according to plan. General Wright spoke into his secure comm. Operation Thunderclap is a go. I repeat, Thunderclap is a go. Across hidden bases throughout human space, ships that had never been seen by alien eyes powered up their engines. Soldiers who had trained in secret prepared their advanced weapons. The mask that humanity had worn for nearly 3 decades was finally removed. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of. And the Krell would learn first. 3 days after Ambassador William Harris shocked the Galactic Council, Lieutenant Alice Morgan stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant. The ship was one of humanity's true warships, kept hidden for decades. It was 5 times larger than the small vessels humans had allowed aliens to see before. Alice was 32 years old with short brown hair and serious eyes. She had trained for this moment her entire career. Next to her stood Captain Frank Adams, a tall man with dark skin and a calm voice that helped steady the crew during tense moments. All ships report ready, Captain, Alice said, looking at the glowing display in front of her. Frank nodded. Begin the jump sequence. The bridge crew worked quickly at their stations. Lights dimmed slightly as power flowed to the ship's secret jump drive. This technology was far beyond what the galaxy thought humans possessed. Jump in 10 seconds, called out the navigation officer, a young man named Scott Wilson. Frank turned to address the bridge crew. Remember your training. The Krell think they know what human ships can do. Today we show them how wrong they are. A soft hum filled the bridge as the countdown reached 0. The stars outside the viewports stretched and twisted. Then the Defiant, along with 116 other human warships, vanished from Earth space. Seconds later, they appeared around a massive Krell military base in the Arcturus sector. The base served as a forward command post for Krell operations against several peaceful species. It was heavily defended with hundreds of Krell warships and defense platforms. We have complete surprise, Alice reported, studying her tactical screen. Krell ships are still in standard orbit. Defense systems are not activated. Frank allowed himself a small smile. 30 years of hiding our true capabilities has paid off. They never expected us to reach this far into their territory. On the massive view screen, Alice could see the Krell station. It was an ugly structure, all sharp angles and weapon ports, orbiting a rocky moon. Around it, beetle-shaped Krell ships floated, completely unaware of the human fleet that had just arrived. "Communications reports panic on all Krell channels," said Lisa Carter, the communications officer. Her fingers danced across her console as she monitored alien transmissions. "They're trying to organize a defense, but our jamming systems are blocking their coordination efforts." Frank settled into his command chair. "Target the main command center and their primary communications array. Prepare the Graviton Lance." The Graviton Lance was one of humanity's most powerful secret weapons. It used gravity itself as a weapon, something the Krell believed was impossible. "Graviton Lance charged and ready," reported the weapons officer, Daniel Grant. His voice was steady despite the historical significance of what they were about to do. Frank took a deep breath. Fire. From the front of the Defiant, a beam of distorted space shot toward the Krell station. It was almost invisible except for a slight bending of light. When it hit the station, the effect was immediate and devastating. The entire command section of the base collapsed inward as gravity multiplied 1,000-fold in that specific area. Around the Defiant, other human ships opened fire with various weapons. Some used similar gravity weapons. Others fired beams that cut through Krell shields as if they weren't there. Still others launched smart missiles that could think and adjust their paths to avoid defenses. "Krell ships are trying to form a defensive line," Alice reported. "Their weapons are powering up." Frank nodded. "Deploy countermeasures and begin Phase 2. Throughout the human fleet, small devices launched from the ships. They floated toward the Krell vessels, looking harmless. When they got close, they activated, creating localized field disruptions that prevented Krell weapons from functioning properly. The few Krell weapons that did fire seemed weak against human shields. Technology that humanity had pretended not to have for decades now revealed its true power. "Sir," Lisa called from communications, "we're receiving surrender signals from 3 Krell light cruisers." Frank raised an eyebrow. "The Krell never surrender." "They do today," Alice said with satisfaction. "These aren't their elite forces. These are regular crews who just realized they're completely outmatched." On the main view screen, they watched as more human ships arrived through jump points. These were troop carriers bringing soldiers to secure the station and free any prisoners the Krell might be holding. "Captain," Scott called from navigation. "Admiral Brown is requesting a status update." Frank straightened his uniform. "Put her through." The view screen changed to show Admiral Linda Brown aboard the flagship USS Judgment. She was an older woman with silver hair and a face that showed both intelligence and determination. "Captain Adams, your battle group has performed admirably," she said. "Initial reports show minimal damage to our fleet and the Krell base is 80% secure." "Thank you, Admiral," Frank replied. "The element of surprise worked perfectly." Admiral Brown nodded. "It won't last. The Krell will adapt quickly, but by then, we'll have struck 7 more of their major bases." She paused. "How are your people holding up?" Frank looked around the bridge. His crew was professional, focused on their tasks, but he could see the pride in their eyes, the satisfaction of finally showing their true strength. "They're ready for whatever comes next, Admiral." "Good. Because this is just the beginning." Admiral Brown's expression became more serious. "We're receiving requests from 17 previously neutral species. They want to join our coalition against the Krell." Alice couldn't help smiling at this news. For years, many alien species had treated humans as barely worth noticing. Now they were eager to be allies. "The galaxy is changing, Captain," Admiral Brown continued. "Our next target is the Rigel system. The Krell have held those worlds for 3 years. The native population has suffered greatly." "The Defiant will be ready, Admiral," Frank assured her. After the communication ended, Frank turned to Alice. "Lieutenant Morgan, prepare a full battle report. I want details on how our weapons performed against Krell defenses." "Yes, sir," Alice replied, already working on her tablet. Frank walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. For so long, humanity had hidden in plain sight, pretending to be weaker than they were. It had been a difficult strategy, sometimes humiliating. But today proved it had been worth it. Across human space, people were watching news of their first major victory. Ships that had been hidden were now moving openly. Soldiers trained in secret were deploying to battlefronts. The mask was off and humanity was revealing its true face to the galaxy. The war had only just begun, but already it was sending shockwaves through every world and every species. The humans were coming, and the Krell Empire was about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating their enemies. On Proxima Centauri 4, 2 miles beneath the rocky surface, Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez made final adjustments to the main engines of the dreadnought USS Reckoning. This ship was even larger than the Defiant. It was the biggest warship humans had ever built, and until 2 weeks ago, no alien species knew it existed. Paul wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the readings on his tablet. The massive engineering bay hummed with energy. Dozens of technicians moved around the huge, glowing core that powered the ship. The quantum fold drive was humanity's greatest secret, allowing their ships to travel faster and farther than anyone in the galaxy thought possible. Systems check complete. All readings are green, Paul said into his comm unit. He was 45 years old with strong hands and eyes that missed nothing when it came to machines. His assistant, Ryan Murphy, a younger man with red hair and freckles, looked up from his own workstation. Dr. Wells reports all weapon systems are also green. The new prototypes performed better than expected during the Arcturus battle. Paul nodded with satisfaction. For 20 years he had worked on these ships. For 20 years he and thousands of other engineers had built in secret, always knowing that someday their work would change the course of the war. That day had finally come. "What about the rest of the Ghost Fleet?" Paul asked. Ryan checked his data. "All 300 vessels report ready for deployment. The Krell still have no idea we've been building these ships." The main door to engineering slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Sharon Davis walked in, her uniform perfectly pressed, despite having been awake for almost 2 days straight. She was tall with short blonde hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. "Chief Engineer," she greeted Paul. "Is my ship ready to make history?" Paul straightened his posture. "Yes, Admiral. The Reckoning is fully operational. She's the most powerful ship humanity has ever built." Admiral Davis smiled slightly. "Good, because we have visitors. The Galactic Alliance representatives have arrived. They're requesting a tour of our facilities." Paul exchanged glances with Ryan. "They still think we're technological beginners who just got lucky with our first attacks, don't they?" "That's about to change," Admiral Davis said. "The President has authorized me to show them exactly what we've been hiding all these years. It's time our potential allies understand what they're joining." In orbit above Earth, Ambassador William Harris guided representatives from 7 alien species through a diplomatic shuttle. The aliens came from worlds that had been neutral in the conflict with the Krell. Now they wanted to join the human coalition, but first they needed to see if humans were truly as powerful as their first victories suggested. "What you're about to see may change how you think about humanity," William explained as the shuttle approached what appeared to be empty space near Earth's moon. The representatives looked confused. There was nothing to see but stars and the distant curve of the moon. William pressed a button on his wrist device. Suddenly, the emptiness filled with massive structures. Shipyards appeared, stretching for thousands of miles. Huge vessels under construction floated in space docks. Worker ships moved between them like bees around a hive. "This is just one of 12 such facilities," William told the speechless aliens. "We've kept them hidden using cloaking technology that bends light and other scanning methods around them." The shuttle moved closer to the shipyards. Through the windows, the aliens could see ships bigger than anything their worlds had ever built. An Arcturian representative, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, turned to William. "Your species claimed to have only basic space technology. You showed us only small ships and simple weapons for decades." William nodded. "We did. It was a deliberate strategy. Early in our development, we learned a harsh lesson from studying galactic history. Species that display their full power too quickly often become targets for stronger forces. So we hid. We learned. We built in secret." A Vega diplomat, whose skin shifted colors with her emotions, currently showed purple shock. "But the resources needed for this, how did you hide it from galactic scanners?" Carefully, William said with a small smile. We mined asteroids in remote systems. We built manufacturing centers inside moons and planets. We developed technology specifically to hide our activities. The shuttle passed a massive ship under construction. It was nearly twice the size of the largest Krell dreadnought. The Krell thought they knew what they were facing when they rejected our peace offers, William continued. They believed they could crush us easily if we ever became a problem. They were wrong. On a different view screen in the shuttle, they could now see footage from the recent battles. Human ships using advanced weapons that cut through Krell defenses. Gravity weapons collapsing Krell stations. Ground forces wearing powered armor that made them faster and stronger than Krell soldiers. Now shall we discuss the terms of our alliance? William asked. The war has only just begun, and we welcome allies who truly want peace in the galaxy. Because, on Proxima Centauri IV, Admiral Davis led alien representatives through the underground base. They stared in amazement at the technologies humans had developed. In one large chamber, scientists worked on what looked like a ring of silver metal floating above a platform. This is our next generation of faster-than-light travel, Admiral Davis explained. It will allow ships to move between star systems, almost instantly. A diplomat from Tau Ceti, a feline-like being with golden fur, looked at the human admiral with new respect. Why reveal all this now? You could have continued hiding. Admiral Davis's expression became serious. Because the Krell went too far. They destroyed 16 worlds, they enslaved billions. Someone had to stop them, and we were ready. In a secure briefing room, the Admiral showed the aliens maps of Krell territory and human battle plans. Our next target is here, she pointed, to a star system near the edge of Krell space. Rigel. The Krell have occupied it for 3 years. We intend to liberate it within the week. The aliens studied the plans with growing interest. One of them, a crystalline being that sparkled in the light, spoke in a musical voice. If your technology is truly this advanced, why do you need allies at all? Admiral Davis looked directly at the alien. Because we don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to free it. After the Krell are defeated, a new order must be built. We want partners in that future, not subjects. As the tour ended, messages arrived from Earth. 17 more species had requested to join the human coalition. The galaxy was changing quickly as news spread of human victories and power. Admiral Davis returned to the bridge of the USS Reckoning. On the main screen, she could see hundreds of ships preparing to depart. The Ghost Fleet was about to reveal itself to the Krell, and the real war was about to begin. Set course for the Rigel system, she ordered. It's time to show the Krell exactly what they've provoked. The massive engines of the dreadnought hummed to life. Across human space, ships moved into position. The mask was completely off now, and humanity was ready to fight. The battle for the Rigel system marked the first major attack on Krell-occupied territory. Major Henry Phillips stood in the dropship, looking at the soldiers under his command. They were the best of Earth's military, wearing advanced, powered armor that no alien had ever seen before. The armor made them stronger, faster, and better protected than any regular soldier. Henry was 40 years old with a scar across his left cheek from an earlier battle. He had spent 15 years training troops for this moment. Now it was time to put that training to use. Remember why we're here, Henry told his soldiers as the dropships prepared to launch from the USS Judgment. The people on this planet have suffered under Krell rule for 3 years. Our job is not just to defeat the Krell, but to protect the civilians. Next to him, Lieutenant Olivia Martinez checked her weapon systems one final time. She was younger than Henry, but just as dedicated. Her dark eyes showed determination behind her helmet visor. Sir, our scouts report heavy civilian presence in all major cities, Olivia said. The Krell are using them as shields. Henry nodded grimly. Which is why precision is key. Team leaders, activate your Prometheus protocols. Each soldier touched a control on their armor. Inside their helmets, displays lit up with new information. The neural interfaces connected them to the advanced AI system that humanity had kept hidden from galactic society. This system would help coordinate their movements, and identify targets with perfect accuracy, dropping in 30 seconds, called the pilot from the front of the ship. Henry took a deep breath. For Earth and all free worlds. The soldiers repeated his words. Then the floor opened beneath them, and they dropped toward the planet's surface, in individual pods. On the surface of Rigel 4, the Krell occupation forces had no warning. The human drop pods used stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to sensors. The first sign of attack came when the pods hit the ground around the main Krell military base. The pods opened, and human soldiers moved with incredible speed. Their armor allowed them to jump higher, run faster, and hit harder than any normal human could. Their weapons cut through Krell armor as if it were paper. Henry landed near what had once been a public park, but was now a Krell command post. His helmet display showed enemy positions, civilian locations, and team movements. Everything was coordinated perfectly through the AI system. Alpha Team, secure the north entrance, he ordered as he moved forward. Beta Team with me. The Krell soldiers fired their weapons, but most shots bounced off the human armor. The few that got through were quickly sealed by the self-repairing systems built into the suits. Olivia moved with her team along the eastern side of the park. Sir, we've found a group of civilians being held in an underground shelter. The Krell have guards at the entrance. Can you get them out safely? Henry asked as he ducked behind a fallen statue to avoid enemy fire. Yes, sir. The Prometheus system is showing me a path with 92% success probability. Henry smiled inside his helmet. Then do it, Lieutenant. Above the planet, the space battle raged. Human ships used their advanced weapons to target Krell vessels with precise attacks. The gravity manipulation technology created localized distortions that trapped Krell ships and crushed their hulls. Admiral Linda Brown watched from the bridge of the USS Judgment. She was coordinating the entire operation, both in space and on the ground. Enemy forces are attempting to regroup at these coordinates, reported her tactical officer, pointing to a display showing the far side of the planet. Linda studied the screen. Deploy the Hunter Squadron to cut them off. We can't let them call for reinforcements. Her executive officer, Commander Joseph White, looked up from his console. Admiral, we're receiving signals from the planet's surface. The Rigelian resistance is rising up against the Krell in 3 major cities. Linda allowed herself a brief smile. Send them the encrypted communication codes. Tell them help is coming. Back on the surface, Henry and his team had secured the command post. Krell bodies lay scattered around them, their thick gray skin no match for human weapons. Inside the post, they found maps and data that showed all Krell positions on the planet. Download everything, Henry ordered one of his tech specialists. Send it directly to the fleet. Olivia's voice came through his comm. Sir, we've secured the civilians. 47 Rigelians, mostly families, they're in bad shape. The Krell have been starving them. Henry felt anger rise inside him. The Rigelians were a peaceful species. They had never threatened the Krell. Their only crime was having valuable resources on their planet. Medical teams are on their way, he assured her. Get those people to the extraction point. As the battle continued, news spread across the planet. Humans had come. The invincible Krell were falling back. Freedom fighters who had hidden for years emerged to join the fight. By the 6th hour of the battle, human forces had secured the main city and 3 major Krell bases. The remaining Krell were either surrendering or trying to escape the planet. On the USS Judgment, Admiral Linda Brown received reports from all fronts. The Rigel system will be secure within 12 hours, she told Earth Command over a secure channel. We can begin relief operations for the civilian population immediately. The face of Defense Secretary Patricia Coleman appeared on her screen. Excellent work, Admiral. The President sends his congratulations. Linda nodded. The real heroes are the ground forces. Major Phillips and his teams performed flawlessly. We're already receiving requests from 17 previously neutral species, Patricia said. They want to join our coalition now that they've seen what we can do. Linda wasn't surprised. The galaxy was learning quickly that humanity hadn't entered this war as just another player. They had entered to win it. What's our next target? She asked. Patricia's expression became serious. The Krell homeworld. Linda's eyes widened slightly. That's deep in their territory. Even with our technology, it will be challenging. The President believes we need to end this war quickly, Patricia explained. The longer it continues, the more innocent lives will be lost. After the communication ended, Linda stood at the viewport of her ship, looking down at the planet they had just liberated. Already relief ships were landing, bringing food, medicine, and supplies to the suffering Rigelians. On the planet's surface, Henry watched as Rigelian children received food from human soldiers. Some of the children had never known freedom. They had been born during the Krell occupation. Was it worth it? Olivia asked quietly as she stood beside him. All those years of hiding our strength, pretending to be weak? Henry nodded slowly. Look at their faces. Yes, it was worth it. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humans had liberated an entire star system in less than a day. The Krell, who had seemed unstoppable for so long, were retreating on multiple fronts. The tide of war was turning and humanity was leading the way. 6 months after humanity entered the war, the Krell Imperium was broken. Their fleets were scattered. Their homeworld was surrounded by human ships and vessels from 30 allied species. The war that everyone thought would take decades had almost ended in less than a year. The surrender ceremony took place in the same Galactic Council chamber where Ambassador William Harris had made his historic announcement. Now the chamber was filled with representatives from over 300 species. Many had joined the coalition after seeing human military power. Others had simply stayed neutral, which had been enough. President Gregory Nelson stood before the gathered aliens. He was tall with gray hair and a serious face that had appeared on screens across the galaxy during the war. Today he would speak not just for Earth but for all the worlds the coalition had freed. The war is over, Gregory began, his voice echoing through the chamber. The Krell Imperium has been defeated. Their leadership will face justice for their crimes against sentient beings. In the audience, Dr. Samantha Wells sat beside General Eric Johnson. Both had played important roles in the war. Samantha had led the team that created many of the advanced weapons humanity had used. Eric had commanded the final assault on the Krell homeworld. Did you ever think we'd end up here? Eric asked quietly as they listened to the president's speech. When we started developing our technology in secret all those years ago, Samantha shook her head. Her eyes showed both pride and sadness. We prepared for the worst but always hoped for peace. Unfortunately, the galaxy had other plans. On the stage, President Nelson continued his speech. Humanity kept its true nature, hidden because history taught us an important lesson. Species that show their power too quickly often become targets. So we appeared weak while growing strong. We watched and learned from the mistakes of others. The president gestured to the representatives around him. We entered this war not for glory or territory, but because someone needed to stand against tyranny. The Krell believed they could conquer whatever they wanted. They believed might made right. They were wrong. The chamber was silent. Even former enemies of humanity listened with respect. The new galactic charter being shared today outlines our vision for the future, the president explained. A future where technological advancement is matched by ethical responsibility, where strength exists to protect rather than conquer. After the ceremony, William Harris found himself approached by the representative of the Arcturian collective, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. The Arcturian was tall with blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Your species deceived the entire galaxy, the Arcturian stated. Its many eyes studied William carefully. William nodded. We did what was necessary to survive. The Arcturian made a sound that might have been respect. The collective has existed for 50,000 of your years, Ambassador. We have watched empires rise and fall. But never have we seen a species hide its power so effectively, only to reveal it at exactly the right moment. William looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's clear dome. Humanity has always been good at two things: adaptation and timing. On Earth, regular citizens celebrated the end of the war. In cities around the world, people gathered in streets and parks. Screens showed images from liberated planets. Children, who had lived under Krell rule for years, were now free. Species that had nearly been wiped out were rebuilding with human help. In Washington, D.C., Defense Secretary Patricia Coleman walked through the underground command center one last time. The facility was being converted from a war room to a coordination center for rebuilding efforts. "Hard to believe it's over," said General Kevin Wright as he joined her. "6 months ago, we were preparing for a war that might last generations." Patricia nodded. "The Krell never expected us to have such advanced technology. Their entire strategy was based on what they thought they knew about us." "Deception can be a powerful weapon," Kevin said. In orbit above Earth, the massive shipyards that had once been hidden were now visible to all. But they were no longer building warships. The same facilities that had created humanity's secret fleet were now producing vessels for exploration and recovery. Ships designed to help rebuild worlds the Krell had damaged. On the bridge of the Yai, USS Judgment, Admiral Linda Brown was preparing for a new mission. Her ship would lead a humanitarian fleet to the worlds that had suffered most during the war. "Course is set for the Tau Ceti system," reported Commander Joseph White. "Relief supplies are loaded and ready." Linda nodded. "Begin departure sequence." As her ship moved away from Earth, Linda thought about how much had changed. For decades, humanity had hidden its true nature from the galaxy. They had appeared weak and unimportant while secretly building their strength. It had been a difficult path, requiring patience and sacrifice. But in the end, it had saved countless lives. Across the galaxy, reconstruction had already begun. Human technology, no longer hidden, was being shared with allied worlds. The shipyards that had built the war fleet were now constructing vessels for peaceful purposes. Scientists who had developed weapons were creating new medical treatments and environmental restoration systems. On the former Krell homeworld, Major Henry Phillips watched as former slaves were reunited with their families. The Krell had taken people from conquered worlds to work in their factories and mines. Now they were going home. "Was it worth it?" Olivia Martinez asked as she stood beside him. She had been promoted to captain after her actions during the war. "All the deception, all the fighting?" Henry looked at the families embracing, at children meeting parents they barely remembered. "Yes," he said simply. "This is why we fought." In the Galactic Council chamber, the final agreements were signed. The Krell who had surrendered would keep their homeworld, but lose all their conquered territories. Their military would be disbanded. Their leaders would face justice for war crimes. Ambassador William Harris signed the document on behalf of Earth. As he did, he thought about the journey that had brought humanity to this point. From a species pretending to be weak to the leaders of a new galactic order. It had been a gamble, but one that had paid off. A new era had dawned for the galaxy, shaped by the moment when humanity finally showed its true face to the stars. Not as conquerors, but as protectors, not seeking to rule, but to free. The war was over. The real work of peace was just beginning.